I'm joined by Ross Cormack, who's the CEO of Ooredoo Myanmar. Ross, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So Ooredoo won the 15-year Telecoms license, beating other rivals from big competitors from all over the world. Can you tell me how you won this victory?
Actually, you know, from the moment we first saw the invitation to tender from the government, we realised that they had a really bold vision. And by going through exactly what they said, we were really challenged, and we loved it. So we basically responded to the challenge by going that step further. So, for example, we offered 3G technologies across all the frequencies that were being offered, so that we could deliver people a smartphone customer experience from launch. It was that and other things. By the way, this was the world's most competitive tender process ever. 92 competitors were attracted, and it shows something about the professionalism of the Union of Myanmar government that they set up such an impressive competition. So the other thing was they held the competition on time, and the world has virtually never seen that before.
Corruption and bribery play a big part in all sectors of Burmese society and industry, especially in telecoms. Could you, for our viewers, just explain the spirit in which the bidding process took place?
Well, the spirit was an open, international and straightforward competition. What the government wanted to see was the various bidders responding to their bold requirements. So coverage, we've promised to cover 97% of the population of Myanmar. At the moment, it's only the main cities that are covered. We promised 3G services to deliver what we call data, but what customers call Facebook or email or any sort of social networking across the whole coverage area. We promised a large employment in Myanmar. So it was these sorts of things, plus there was a quantum where we had to promise an amount that we would pay for the spectrum. So it was a completely open process, and that's why so many competitors entered it.
Could you go into detail just a bit about how and when you'll roll out these services?
Yes, I mean, this was one of the areas where we loved the boldness of the government's approach. So we said the government clearly wanted to have the services available as soon as possible. So in our bid, we responded by saying within 6 months of the effective date of the license. So that's the license comes with all the things that it does, including a date from which all our coverage obligations and all the other obligations are determined. So we said within 6 months we'll launch services, and we'll be launching obviously in the main areas of the population of the country at the moment, and then fast building out to reach 97% of the population by the end of 5 years.
Could you talk a little bit more about the services? Can you go into a bit more detail about the services that Ooredoo will be providing for people?
Yeah, it's very important that people can make calls where they want to, can send messages to people that they want to, internationally as well as nationally. So those basic services will be there from launch date. But also available from launch date will be internet access. So for many people, it'll be the first internet access they actually have, and it'll be in their pocket. And so internet services will bring with it, mobile banking, for example. There'll be products for the agricultural sector as we go out into the rural areas, just as we've launched in Indonesia, for example, so that people can see what prices crops are and so forth and when to plant. There will be other sorts of services, social networking, and things that people just love and need for their daily business. But above all, it will be a great customer experience.
You mentioned that people will be using your services on their telephones in their pockets. I mean, the majority of people who use the internet use it from their phones instead of laptops or computers. Will this affect the way you roll out services?
Well, it affects the technologically how we deliver the services, but the customers won't feel that. It's a very complicated technological background to the whole of our services, but it's really important that for customers it's a simple experience. So when they come into one of our stores or into one of our dealers, they will have people who will help them set up their phones and help show them how to operate the services. So they walk out of the store with working services, but also having understood what services are possible.
Right now, network infrastructure is heavily biased towards the cities, Mandalay and Rangoon, and 70% of the population can't even get access to electricity. So how will you provide coverage to these rural areas?
Yeah, we've been looking at, of course, alternative power solutions, but the obvious ones which we've deployed in other countries with a similar challenge. I mentioned in Indonesia before, that's another huge country where there is large areas without power. Then we have a mix of solar panels and diesel generators. So basically what we're trying to do is to provide as green as possible a footprint, but also recognise that people need to use the services, and that's how we'll be planning to roll out.
Many people from the rural areas, many people who aren't connected and from the poorest regions are worried or have concerns that the pace of development is just going way too fast. How do you ensure that Ooredoo acts responsibly and has responsible business practices?
It's very important. I mean, we're an ethical company, and our whole approach to business is to provide great customer service, but also to be part of the fabric of society. And we do this in very many different ways. But to your direct question, what we are doing is selecting distribution that we are trying and testing ourselves and training to behave in the Ooredoo Myanmar way, which is so important. But what we want to do is to make sure that at the place where you live or work, you can have both coverage around the country, and particularly in the rural areas. As you've mentioned, over 70% of the country is rural, and to have basically a local dealer who you already trust to buy your other services from, maybe your toothpaste or your other products, consumer products, and also increasingly your telecoms as well. So in that way, we mean to provide services properly in the community. But we're about also, as I say, being part of the fabric of society. We promised to employ 30,000 women in telecommunications services by the end of 2015. And that's something we promised under the Global Clinton Initiative as the Ooredoo Group. But we're also part of helping the community and the less fortunate in society. And we see that as a bedrock for reaching out to the various communities, particularly in the rural regions.
So reaching out to local communities through local development projects, or how?
Well, we'll work with various NGOs and others already doing good work, and we'll help to publicise their services and help them to take their services to people. In addition, we'll provide sponsorship and help for local people. We're, of course, just starting in Yangon at the moment, but we've already sponsored the Yangon Youth Forum, for example, which is a very important young people's forum for debating the future of their society, to which they'll be major contributors. Small things, but very important for reaching out. At a much bigger level, we're sponsoring the football. So the Myanmar Football Federation, we're major sponsors for that now.
What steps are you going to take to address land rights issues, human rights abuses, and when working with local partners, cronyism?
We're a telecoms company at the end of the day. We're an ethical business partner for anybody wishing to do business with us, but we're going to be ensuring that we have the best possible services delivered in an ethical and clean and proper manner. We will reach out to local communities to help us distribute, to help us to maintain and operate the towers and so forth, working with our partners, as we just mentioned earlier. So just like having tower partners, we'll have distribution partners, and they will be the people who will be responsible for delivering the services locally.
You talked earlier a bit about local job creation. I mean, how many jobs as a whole will you be offering to local citizens, and how much sort of foreign expertise will you need to be bringing in?
Well, you know, we start by bringing in some foreign expertise, and you can probably see walking through our offices, there's a number of international. Right. You know, in total we've got 250 plus people, but 60% of those people are Myanmar already. Now, our job as international people is to train up everybody in our companies so that people can actually hand on the responsibility to young people from Myanmar who can expect to grow in our company. At the end of 5 years, we'll have a low number of thousands of direct employees across the country. But we'll also have independent distribution and independent towers maintenance and all sorts of other related industries that will be part of us, and they will employ tens of thousands, perhaps even hundreds of thousands over the course of the next few years.
You mentioned before you've had experience with working in other difficult economies and difficult industries such as Indonesia. How does the state of Indonesia back then compare to working in Burma now?
Well, in fact, there are a whole range of services that we've launched for agricultural. I've mentioned that, and mobile banking, and we've also created an incubator for bright young people to come and bring their internet-based ideas, which we then help them market on our network. And we'll do similar things here. And we're just finalising exactly how we offer those to the market and introduce them. But it's not just Indonesia, you know, we're in Singapore, a very different type of country, but we've got some really interesting technology there, which in the fullness of time we'll be bringing here as well. And if you look around the region, yes, Indonesia is the largest, but we're across North Africa, Middle East and Southeast Asia. The vast majority of our customers are actually in Southeast Asia.
How do you see the future of the telecoms industry in Burma?
I think it's fantastic. You know, it's an infrastructure platform at the end of the day. So just like roads and schools and airports, which are an absolutely necessary part of the foundation for a modern society, telecommunications is key to growing economies. I've touched on telecommunications reaching out to nearly everybody in the country, and that will give people the opportunity to stay in touch and have human communications. But even more importantly, it will get them opportunities for work and to speed up the development of other industries.
The name Ooredoo was mostly unknown in Myanmar a year ago. Yeah. How have you made yourselves a household name?
Well, actually, it's, as I was saying before, it's more about who we are and how we do business. We're about people. We attract great people. You know, when I first joined the company, we had less than 1 million customers, and that's only 10 years ago. Now we have nearly 100 million customers across 17 different countries, and the majority of our customers in this region. And that's because of the way we relate to people and the people we attract. So when we go into each of the markets where we operate, and Myanmar will be no different, we've already got a really vibrant community out there, and they're really excited to be here.
Thank you very much for speaking to me, Ruth.
Thank you very much, Helen.